Oh my gosh, I love your Bitmoji. Wow, what is that?
Oh my gosh, I was muted that whole time. I was like talking to myself. I was describing, it's not recorded. Wow. I was describing it's me on some clouds, just daydreaming and dreaming big. And I added it like a few years ago,
Oh,
and I always think about changing
so
it, but
relevant. So good.
people like it. So I was like, okay, I'll just leave it.
Gotta please, you gotta please the fans.
I mean, if people are inspired, I'm not going to take that away from them.
Very nice, very cool.
Yeah, I like that you have clouds.
Thank you. That was
Like,
like the positive thing out of the pandemic was like, oh, I gotta do these video calls. I want to look at
mm,
clouds. I don't want to look at anybody's face.
right.
I like your Bitmoji though. I'd look at Bitmojis all day.
I really love them. I collect them. They get updated so frequently, and it's just fun to look at, and it makes me laugh. So yeah, it brings me a little joy.
Perfect. Um,
Yeah.
I have to add today is the first day of a course that I'm helping to facilitate, and so I I have to like hustle out at like maybe 11:40. So I think that's enough time.
Oh
You know,
yeah, more than
yeah,
enough time.
plenty of I think that's plenty of time, but just so I'm not rushing us at all, just saying, yeah, I'm kind of saying that to keep myself accountable. It's like, Jeannie, you gotta go load your car up full of stuff for this outdoors event at a farm. So, anyways,
Nice.
um, good stuff. Just I wish it wasn't happening during a heat wave.
Oh my gosh, why
I
is
feel
it so hot?
I know it's pretty harsh right now. It's hard times.
Man,
Could be worse. Could be worse.
this is true. Yes, I am an optimist, and I try not to complain. It could be worse.
This is fleeting. This is gonna pass.
Yes,
We're gonna be okay.
let's manifest.
How are you doing though?
I'm
Just
okay.
mm-hmm.
I was cranky yesterday
Mm.
because my computer just stopped working.
Oh,
So today I'm going to recognize the moment I get cranky and just stop working. Maybe I should just not work so hard. Maybe just read a book. It's fine.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
Just
Path,
just lean into it. Just let it happen. Ride
yeah.
it.
Path of least resistance.
I felt
Yeah.
that way toward my internet, but my internet has been very good. And so I fingers crossed for our entire duration today. It should be good.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I am on the
Mhm.
computer, so I'm taking a risk. But it's
Oh,
early, right?
yeah, it is.
So it's not too hot just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're going to a farm.
I'm going to be teaching, well, not teaching. I'm going to be a facilitator in a course, and it happens to be about composting. And so it makes sense that all of our courses will be occurring outdoors in farm settings. Yeah, it's at a urban farm in Alameda.
Nice.
Super excited for it, and it's the first time we're doing in person for this course since before the pandemic. So our team's like really excited and hoping it goes off without a hitch. I'm also tasked with going to buy ice. So that's what I'm also doing after we have our chat is gonna hunt down a spot to get ice and a cooler to stuff it because we want to keep people hydrated and cool, literally.
Yes, literally. Wow.
I know. I hope you can't hear my rabbit tearing paper in the background.
No, but it adds context too.
I'm I'm floor level and this is his he has several witching hours and this is one of them. So he's just redecorating our home by shredding paper.
I love that. Redecorating.
One day you'll meet him. He is with his wet mouth, he decided to toss my laptop before our call.
Oh my gosh.
He's kind of terrible, but I love him.
Tenacious.
It's the only way to live.
Yes, in the moment.
Rabbit.
Is there anything that they don't get into?
They are pretty good about not chewing furniture. Rabbits are notorious for chewing up wooden furniture, and he's not into that. No, he's not into that.
Interesting.
He's into fine rugs and clothing.
Oh,
Your most coveted bags, so don't leave anything on the ground.
noted.
Yeah.
I'm curious, if your loom is out, does your rabbit ever
Ooh,
get to
my
it?
loom. Oh, yes. My loom has wooden legs, and I put tape around all of the legs. But because it has legs, it's quite elevated. So the loom is very safe from this rabbit. I think if it were floor level, because he is drawn to textiles as I am, I think he would destroy what's on the loom.
Oh, wow.
So no, my loom is safe. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking up loom weaving and
Mm,
I realized like, oh my gosh, this is a whole world that I've never known.
mm.
I learned a new term I'm curious about walking the treadles.
Ooh, that must be for multi-shuttle looms, and I don't have a multi-treadle loom. I have a very simple rigid heddle loom, and so it's quite more simple. I haven't heard the term walking the treadles. Can you explain what it is to me? But maybe, yeah.
From from what I saw on the YouTubes, it was interesting. This woman was walking the treadles, and it was like there were these pedals on the floor that helped move almost like gears. So like it moved
Yes.
the loom in pieces like up and down, like different layers of it.
Yeah.
And it was like she was able to do it like hands free,
Yeah.
but her hands were like kind of guiding the fabric.
Yeah, that sounds like a floor loom, and those are incredible. So cool.
Yeah,
Isn't it mesmerizing to watch?
it really was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to stop watching YouTube and get on the call.
All good. You were doing your
Tell me about yours.
due diligence, you were doing your due diligence, like researching and looking up stuff with, so you had context, you had like a visual to look at. So the loom that I have, both of them, I have a one that's mounted on a stand and one that's called a tabletop, but they're both called rigid heddle looms. And so I'm pretty sure the rigid heddle loom has several types of variations that look slightly different, but are fairly simplistic in their operation, like around the world, whether someone originates from Peru or in like East Asia or in Europe. A rigid heddle loom is pretty, yeah, again, you can't do a lot of different types of patterns and such with it, but it weaves really great fabric, and it's great because it's simple in operation, so it can be made to be portable. So the kinds that I have can be lifted up and picked up easily from one room to the next, and my table loom, I could even pack it up and take it on a plane with me in a large tote bag if I wanted. So they're really awesome. They're a very
Wow.
good entry point and affordable way for someone to get into weaving if they wanted.
Wow. I'm kind of curious. Like, why would we want to do loom weaving versus like crocheting or just knitting?
Oh, I love this question. So, with the type of, so like when you have a fabric that came off of a loom, it's called a woven fabric. And then when you have fabric that's been knitted with like a knitting machine or hand knit, so that's a knit fabric. And it really comes down to purpose and durability and drape. So for clothing, for example, like knits, if you look at the micro little tiny yarn that makes up a t-shirt, you'll note that it's a knitted fabric. Actually, it's not a woven fabric, and so it just drapes really nicely, knitted fabrics and of a certain weave of like thread and such. And so, yeah, that's just serving different purposes, when it's woven, I mean, or knitted. And depending on the types of machines that people have availability to, that also kind of dictates. But for the most part, I would say that woven fabrics provide much more durability and can be more rigid as opposed to knit fabrics. When we think of knit, we're thinking really cozy, comfy sweaters and
Yeah.
yeah, t-shirts, and it can kind of get scrunched up. But when we think woven fabric, imagine like denim jeans and a canvas tote bag or something. And so or
Ah,
sails. And so those are different types of, looms with different like diameter of the type of yarn that's being used for that fabric. But yeah, it's just different purposes. But yeah, I could totally nerd out on fabrics and such, and even dissecting different types of fabrics that are in people's closets. Yeah, it's really
oh my gosh, yes.
fun. Yeah, yeah.
My mind is so blown right now because you said things that I see all the time on my clothing tags and have no idea what it means. Like when you said knitted fabric and woven fabric, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that before, but didn't realize that it refers to like maybe how close the threads are to each other. When you mentioned the durability, it's like, oh yeah, okay. When the fabric like jeans or denim, for instance, like if it's woven together tightly, it's harder to break apart.
Exactly, exactly. And with woven fabric, if you choose like depending on the type of fibers that you use, cotton or hemp or however, when you have something woven or even wool, it can be really non-stretch, which is helpful. Let's say you have a rug. Rugs are mostly woven. So they're kind of providing a soft thing to put your feet on, but they have stability and structure. You can't
Mm,
imagine if you had a rug that was kind of knitted and it would be stretchy. It wouldn't hold its form very well to a space. Maybe you get snagged on things. And so,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
if you look at a rug, I'm looking at my wool IKEA rug right now. Yeah, that
yeah,
has threads running in two separate directions, and it's for a reason. It's for durability and wear and tear. Yeah, all of that.
yeah. That makes sense now. Like if you get a snag, like the fabric stretches, the hole starts to get
Hmm.
bigger and wider, and then it just like splits apart completely.
Yes, yes, like that Weezer song. What is it? I think
Oh,
Sweater.
yes.
I'm dating my 90s, 2000s upbringing. Yes, like it's exactly that. And yeah, I love how you bring it back to the everyday is we can see examples of this craft, this ancient technology that is still so relevant in everything we
Right?
use, whether it's like fabric for that upholsters a car or
Oh my
upholsters
gosh,
the
yeah.
BART seat, like you could totally examine all the fabrics for our backpacks and purses and really look at it, and you can figure out really once you know the basics, like, oh, is that knitted or is that woven? Is that, yeah, crocheted? Like, how is that created? And it is really interesting. It's nice to marvel kind of at the ordinary like that.
Yeah, I really enjoy nerding out on those things because they're details of like generations of knowledge that we take for granted today that I don't know. I mean, the point was so that we wouldn't have to worry about it, right? But then it starts to become a lost art if people don't keep up with the way that it came to be.
Sure. I think I have a love-hate with industrialization and
Yeah.
capitalism because yay, we can all buy cheaper, affordable IKEA furniture and fabric, seats and everything for the like cushions and everything, but at what
Hmm.
cost? I know that's a whole other conversation.
Of course. Yeah, I'm always trying to think like as a capitalist, only um by environment, because I grew up in New York City. But I always like to think of how in agriculture, the way to keep it sustainable is to like, split it up and you have a rest period. And I always think about how like we're missing the rest period
Hmm.
in capitalism.
Yeah,
Like when I say capitalism, I am referring to free markets. Like I'm a big believer of free markets. If people were able to be free to sell and buy, freely without people having to like worry about markets um overly saturated or dominated and people being left out, like if we could just trade freely, quite simple, um, we could incorporate a rest period where we don't have to trade and we can let things kind of settle back down to where it belonged. I know I totally went on a tangent about it, but
No, I love it.
like
It,
I always think of like farming because it's nature and it's natural, and we kind of lost that
yeah,
in the greed and like the power dynamics that have overtaken others.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now
But
I
take a
know you
turn.
now I know you had set me up with some things that we perhaps were going to talk about with art and craft ahead of time. Did you want to
We
stay
talked
to that
about,
course?
I mean, we don't have to.
Oh, I'm happy to. That's kind of what I prepared for.
I mean, it's easy to get um, wound up thinking about global economic politics. I certainly don't enjoy talking about it just because it makes me sad.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
really, yeah, I would prefer to talk about the nerdy, crafty stuff. Just being honest
sure.
and apologizing for my tangent going sideways, even though
No, no worries.
it just kind of happened.
I'm happy to hear it. Happy to hear about it and those thoughts. They're very important.
Well, it's also like tied into the work that you do and how you ended up where you are. And I'm curious more so about the creative outlets you use to kind of get away from that or to like rest, to have your own rest period.
Ooh, I like this question. And yeah, let me make sure I'm understanding too is your question about how, we're all really required. We have no choice but to participate in a system of capitalism in this economic and social system that really dictates how we live our lives and, literally having to work to like earn basic things like housing and food. So
Yeah.
your question just like bring art and craft back in, you know, not out of maybe just like as a respite from that really terrible, you
Mm-hmm.
know, day-to-day capitalistic world that we live in.
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at?
That is what I'm getting at. I love how you're able to hear me and also like form it in words that make sense.
No, yeah, I totally think you make sense. And I wanted to repeat back to make sure I understood. And it's interesting because I was reflecting on the question you shared with me ahead of time where you asked, how did you end up where you are today in relation to your art? And I was thinking about how my skills that I know, whether it's sewing, gardening and working with textiles, it was very pragmatic to start with. Like it
Mm.
was, in this world and growing up in a family wanting to be super frugal and wanting literally our belongings to stretch their lifespan as much as we could meant that you had to alter clothing to make it fit someone else in the family or
Yeah.
buy something on sale that doesn't fit us quite well to
Yeah.
alterations to it and it was my dad actually who knew already how to use an industrial sewing machine and we had one and so I learned how to work with textiles from a very practical way, not about, art and beauty. It wasn't about that. It was really about survival and how to just be really thrifty to make sure our like dollar stretches further. And I mean, I'm super thankful for that perspective though,
Yeah.
because then I appreciate it so much. And these are all skills that a lot of people may not, have anymore. Like you were saying, we've lost a lot of that craft and art,
Yeah.
and it's great for it to be practical, but it's also such a great place to infuse beauty. And so, now as an adult looking back, um, it's awesome being able to use those skills, but then also to come from a place more so about joy and and bringing and bringing beauty into the home or on the body for adornment, as opposed to just simply from like a scarcity, scratchy survival mindset. So
Yeah.
it was very much informed by, yeah, like I guess capitalism fueled some some of this, like, not forced knowledge. It was like out of necessity, but it's, yeah, it's like a definitely a place of that is for like relaxing and unwinding from the day. Yeah, when I'm weaving, it's such a nice exercise in meditation and reflection while I'm making this really awesome big scarf
Yeah.
with like wool that was from sheep that are living in California.
Wow, we have sheep in California.
Oh my goodness, we have so many sheep in California. And you were talking about, you were talking about machines earlier, like looms and such. And did you know that a lot of America's domestic fabric production has just gone away because we've sold all of those machines overseas?
No way.
And because we outsourced, thanks to the free market and capitalism, big companies figured, well, we can find cheaper labor uh, over internationally. So we don't need these machines anymore. But then also that knowledge gets lost. So even
Right.
if even if the United States wanted to revive and bring back the production of domestic fabric that we used to make back in like the 60s and before, we don't even have the knowledge and skill enough to go back to where it was.
Wow.
So it's pretty astounding to think about. Like yeah, that's witnessing history and literally loss of craft because, oh, well, say China has a bunch of the looms that we sold to them and they now have the knowledge and skills and the machines to make it, whereas we don't. So here I am going on
Wow.
my tangents, but I'm trying to pull it all together. I think it makes sense.
I think it does. I'm appreciating the oscillation that we're having because we're impacted by it, whether
Hmm.
we want to be aware of it or not. And I don't think we talk about it enough.
Yeah, I don't know if people have time to really pause and think about it. And I don't think most people have alternative options. We have no choice but to like, hey, go to Target, pick up undergarments or go to the local mall or order online for clothing. Yeah, we don't really have many options that are affordable and reasonable and also that fit everyone's size.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a whole other topic too that I could go into. It's like,
of course. I mean, I'm immediately thinking there's like a level of laziness where we do things out of convenience more frequently and we don't schedule enough time to create versus consume, whether it's like entertainment on TV or our phones, when we could be using that time to like enrich our playful desires in crafting and art and nerding out. I mean, that's why I'm doing this podcast because it's kind of nice to just take a moment to reflect on things that we would like to do and create entry points for us to try it out again. Like just a little bit each day, I think could help us get closer to rebuilding those skills that we've lost out of convenience. But convenience for what, right?
hmm I love that initiative. I love the motivation for your creating this. And the piece that really struck me from what you shared is the craft and creation of, whether it's art or music, or I mean, all of it's art, but is doing it in community with others. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is actually the kind of underlying piece that has to be present in order to have like meaning, I think, is to be with
Yeah.
others. And so, yeah, I was super. We will definitely have a session where we hang out and I can show all of us friends like the weaving loom. I think that would be really fun.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Yeah, that was, sorry, couldn't happen this time around, but it's gonna happen. No
It's
problem.
going to happen.
Time is made up. It's okay. We'll be fine.
Yes, yes, we will create the time. And speaking of time, I do want to respect your time and um, give you the time and space to prepare for your group, which I'm excited by proxy, um, that you're going to facilitate this group on composting. Definitely want to talk with you about gardening and composting and all the things.
For sure.
Is there um, any words that you would want to share with others in regards to the things that we talked about?
Hmm. I guess I have a response to another response to what we are talking about, and hoping that, I guess the first word that comes to mind is kind of compassion and kindness for each other, because living in, under kind of like a almost post-capitalist world is what
Mm-hmm.
I read about, and how, it's everyone's struggling a lot. I wonder if, people do things maybe not so much out of, say, laziness or even convenience, but because it's people just don't simply have the energy,
Yeah.
capacity, and also the resources. There is a lot of resources. There are resources required in order to craft, whether any kind of art, and gardening even, like that's a part of it, is accessibility. And accessibility doesn't just literally mean the resources to do those things, but also the time too.
Yeah.
Like having time to relax and to just be and create art, and even with others, it's unfortunately a luxury in this 21st century, at this time. And so I guess, I mean, I wouldn't really hold anyone down if they're, shopping at a particular place and doing something because they just are too tired, or seemingly, um I mean, to me, the way I look at it is like, I really think people don't really have a choice. And so if, someone's, I don't know, ordering clothes online or something, it's just not, I don't feel it's quite my place to say anything about that, especially because all of us are really in this together. I mean,
Yeah.
all of us are fighting the super, super capitalists and the billionaire class. And so our actions shouldn't be so scrutinized. We need to all unite and work together to demand the state, and demand, like, corporations to, they're the ones who should be doing better. It's kind of my long-winded answer to, I guess, one of the main points I want to bring out. And then also, the other point too is, I hope that people can have, like, good imaginations to imagine a world in which, like, we do have space to, like, create together and make really beautiful things together in without stress and urgency. So um anyways, yes.
I love that so much. It's such a good call out because it's never just one thing. I know I said laziness, and that was like my gut reaction. And I knew even as I said it that it wasn't the whole truth because, like you said, we have a certain capacity and sometimes we get burnt out, like just trying to survive. And there's little space for us to create space and resources to do the things that we really want to do and pursue our passions or dreams. So I really appreciate you um, explaining and showing compassion, really, because we are in this together, and we should be looking to the larger systemic oppressions in place that's causing all of us to live this way versus each other, right?
Yeah, it's at the forefront of my mind, is like during these past few years in the pandemic, really bringing, like, disability justice and the activism from that, as well as activism around decolonization, in action, not as a metaphor. So, like, literally land back And
Yeah.
what does it mean to, yeah, like re-indigenize and rematriate land, and what imagining a world in which, like, yeah, we don't live under oppression. So we need to be able to imagine that world to be able to govern, not just, in response to capitalism and all the isms that are been really awful and have formed the way the world is now. Um, and it informs the art, I think. Yeah, it's like approaching it in that way. So that there is abundance, and that I love that you say rest. I think that there's not enough rest. Like
Mm.
rest is pretty revolutionary, to build rest, to demand it. We do see some of that, I would say, like with people not, wanting to settle for less. I mean, it's small, it's very small. It's not even a movement, but there's ripples of that. People demanding better, and, unionizing happening in the United States and demanding better workers' rights. That's all a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah, we're deviating, but this is all at the forefront of my mind.
I know. I mean, I definitely want to talk with you more about Mia Mingus and Mariam
Hmm.
Kaba.
Yeah, hmm.
They're just amazing people that you mentioned as influences in your life and your work. Um, but yeah, I'm feeling like I had a nice slice of pie of wholesome, creative process.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't even know how to describe it, but I really appreciate it. I got a lot of joy from our conversation.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to talk so much about more of like art.
So we'll just do it again. We'll just we'll just talk again.
Where can I hear episodes from your friends who you've spoken to who have gone live?
It has gone live this week. So we're on SoundCloud. Um, I'm posting on Instagram right now. It's on YouTube and it's on rss.com.
Nice. Applause,
Yeah.
applause. Okay, SoundCloud. We'll definitely check this out.
Yes. And soon you will be there.
Super cool. So you were able to have your friends share about their pottery and ceramic work.
Yes. I'm looking for as many different vocations as possible because it's really just about the human experience. And in our creative process, I think is like the most raw of having a human experience and making decisions and balancing between passion, survival, and creation.
Hmm.
There's just a running theme, no matter what craft someone is doing or what work they do. And I find that so fascinating. I just want to share that.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait to listen to the other episodes and about other people's artwork.
Yeah. So I guess I'll stop the recording here and then we'll do like a proper farewell.
Yeah, yeah, sure.